Hey, Judy.
Good morning, Lisa. How are things?
Things are going great. Thanks.
Good, really good. Yeah.
So,
Time for us to have our talk about journal writing and all
all
of that.
things. Yes. All the things the Sidetrack sisters are interested in.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Can't wait.
today, our topic is different kinds of journal writing, different kinds of diary writing, different kinds of legacy writing, and what we think about it.
Exactly. That's what I had in my notes. So let's go. So
Okay.
what?
So, the first thing I did is I got online. I thought, really, officially, according to the Googles, well, how many different kinds of writing are there?
Right.
And I came up with a whole list. There are dream journals, food journals, reading journals, travel logs, gratitude journals, daily logs. And I was like, okay, I think we all know what those are. And
Correct.
people do those and have fun with those. And that is very cool. Now, the travel journal, I thought to myself, what's important about any of these things is that you put down your thoughts and your
Mm-hmm.
feelings and your
Mm-hmm.
impressions
Mm-hmm.
and not just the pictures. Do you know I say that?
Because if you're gone, those pictures don't mean anything to anybody because they weren't there.
Exactly. And you know where I've got that experience from?
Grandma.
Grandma is. She
Mm-hmm.
had album after album after album
Mm-hmm.
of travel pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they're lacking?
Any people and writing and identification, right?
Isn't
She
that
didn't, I don't think
crazy?
she even identified where she was.
Crazy. I think
Hmm.
Michelle might still have them, but
I
totally,
have a couple of them, and I always thought it was neat for her because she enjoyed her trip so much to go through and remember.
yeah,
However, for somebody else who wasn't with her, they really are kind of, okay, so now what do I do with you?
exactly. And even like my mom, Sandy, I mean, she's like, these aren't personal. These were important to her, but they absolutely have no value to the rest of us because there's not none of her is in it.
That's right. It would have been if she could have taken pictures with her doing something and then a little writing below, I
Right.
loved Hawaii because I'd never been on a volcano before, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. That would be wonderful. But there was no expression of her personal connection with those things. And I think it's
Exactly.
important if you're going to do a picture of something, either get yourself in the picture, explain why the picture is important, something like that, because I think it makes it more enjoyable to other people.
And valuable. I mean, because literally, I have absolutely no interest in looking at her travel journals because they're, to be honest with you, they're boring. I mean, if she's not in them, why would I want to look at them?
Mhm. Mhm. And I think for her it was such a wonderful thing to get to do that travel because dad was my your grandfather was a traveling salesman, and the last thing he really wanted to do was go traveling. So when they finally started traveling when dad was in the insurance business, I
Yeah.
mean, she was over the moon. So all of
Yeah.
those things meant so much to
Mhm,
her.
mhm. Yeah.
But it was a good lesson to me that if do something like that, make it personal so others can enjoy it too.
And so, what one of the kinds of journals lately that I've seen a lot online are artist journals or junk journals.
Mhm.
And I think those are amazing and beautiful and like grandma's travel log, fun for the person who's doing them.
Mhm.
What I mean, I've seen some websites that are absolutely amazing. And these people do these intricate pages that are multiple layers of different papers and rips and little embellishments and stickers. And then there's maybe an envelope on it that you open up, and in it is a little card that you open up, and it has a little twisty on it, and maybe a butterfly comes out. And I mean, it's like layer after layer of beautiful, intricate embellishments.
Mhm.
And I think to myself, but these are all in a book. I mean, the book itself, it's art piece after art piece after art piece. It's like a scrapbook without any personal picture. I mean, I suppose you could put personal pictures in
You
it.
could. Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Um,
I think I was telling you that our cousin gave me a like a wall piece that had things that really didn't relate to her, they related to me, and that was a little bit more fun for me because I
Yes,
could see
yes.
why she chose the items,
Hmm.
and there was even a little quote on it and things like that, and
Well,
that was
show it to us.
cool.
Let's see. Since
Yeah.
some people will be looking at this online, why don't you grab that quick?
Yeah, it's, I use the dragonfly as my logo, and I just love the dragonfly, and I'll start see how close I can get this here.
No,
But
just hold it back by your face. Oh, yes, that is gorgeous.
yeah,
Oh,
and
I
it
see the
has the
little dragonfly
dragonfly,
charm on it.
has a little dragonfly charm. It has a writing about the dragonfly and what the dragonfly means.
Is
And
that
then
is that
it's
a real plant?
no.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's a dried flower. And so, I
Mhm.
mean, there was a lot of thought and work and effort that went into this. And
Yes. Now,
um
like, what I'm talking about with the junk journal or the artist journal, some people have page after page after page. The whole journal is unique pieces like that
mhm,
in a journal
mhm,
form. And
right.
I think it's so beautiful. Um, and I'm wondering if down the road, if that's going to be valued to anybody else other than the person who's working on it, or if that's just the purpose of a journal. Is it just for you? Um, what do you think? I mean, I guess I'm thinking that the journaling, that the legacy writing that we're encouraging people to do, is the purpose of it is to leave a part of yourself for other people to connect with future generations.
In particular for your heirs, your family, or that kind of thing, because so often, like in our family, we have great nieces and nephews who never knew grandma and grandpa, and so
Mhm.
the journal's purpose would be to acquaint them a little bit with that person, and so that when we talk about them, they're like, "Oh yeah, I read that in grandma's journal." That kind of a thing I think is really, really valuable to a family. It's a keepsake. And,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's why, we've had our 2 books published so far, and I think those books are gonna stay um, on our shelves for a good long time because they've got pieces of each of us, and they don't need 4 journals, they've got 1 journal that tells it all. So, it really tells it all in some cases, but I think the value of that is immense, and that can travel on down the years, and so I like the idea of the legacy.
Mhm.
Now
Mhm.
that leads me to another type we talked about called memoir. Tell me about memoirs and what you think of those.
Well, I do post a lot, and I'm a member of many memoir writers groups on Facebook. And I mean, I like that. I think the difference between legacy writing and memoir writing, though, there is a difference. So
Hmm.
where legacy writing are personal little essays or little vignettes from your life that
Hmm.
don't necessarily tell a story. When I interview memoirists or when I read a memoir, it usually talks about a particular span of your life or a particular experience that you've lived through,
Hmm.
that you are feeling like it's valuable, that you need to share this information to a wider audience, whether
Hmm.
it's the experience of, growing up with an abusive parent, or living through uh, uh, there was a wonderful woman that I interviewed who grew up in a nudist colony. Um, Her writing about
I
that was
remember
just
that one.
a hoot. Very unique. I interviewed somebody who was the first woman firefighter for the National Forest Service, and how she got into that, and her ups and her downs, her experience. So I think a memoir is something that somebody has an experience that needs to be shared to a wider audience. And it
And it's
often
unique.
has,
It's very
it's,
unique.
it's a unique experience.
Hmm.
And I think it also has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
I agree. I think the one thing comes to my mind with memoir is a lot of famous people, especially movie stars and
Yeah.
actors and things like that
Yeah.
will do a memoir.
Yeah.
And you've seen Paul Newman on the screen, but how much do you know about his real life?
His
And
growing
those,
up. Yep.
yeah, and
How
so
he
those
became a
are
movie star. Mhm.
exactly. So those are kind of spellbinding because it gives you the backstory to somebody that you've seen out there, in the public eyes for so long.
Yes, yes. And I think that, with our stories, they don't have a beginning, middle, and an end. They are
No.
more random. They're just about a topic and they're short and sweet. They
Hmm.
don't. Now, let's say you had somebody who was a World War II veteran or a
Hmm.
veteran from the Vietnam War or something where there was an experience like that. That could be included in a legacy writing.
Yes.
But perhaps if you really deep
Dive
dive
deeply
into
into it.
that experience of the when you were in the war, that could be a memoir. And then you
Hmm.
really flesh that out to have that one experience be the entire piece of writing.
Well, and something that's occurred to me is that by doing your legacy writing, you might actually be motivated to take a piece of it and do a memoir about it.
Yeah. Mhm,
So one could lead to the other, and they have two different purposes, as you
mhm,
say. One is for the unique experience, the other one is just sharing, as we said last week, who am I? Where did I come from? What have I done? Kind
mhm.
of thing. And how do I
And I
feel
think
how
there's
do I
one
feel about stuff?
Yeah, there's one other really important difference between legacy writing and memoir writing. And that I think the goal of memoir writing is actually to have it published. Because as I
Right.
said, you want it to get out there to a wider audience.
Right.
And in order to get it out to a wider audience, you've put your heart, sweat, and tears into this baby. And you want to, sell it.
Well, and
So I
there's
think,
often disclosure in there that people are kind of hungry to read, so it would make it more appealing to the masses.
yeah. And once again, with legacy writing, the people that are mostly going to be interested in these are going to be your community, your close friends, your family.
Correct.
Mhm.
Exactly. There was one other one that we were talking about the other day, biographies.
Yeah.
Now, biographies are sometimes written by another person
Mhm.
about you, right?
Yep.
And biographies always feel to me like they're a little bit more general. They're not quite as meaty as a memoir. What's your feeling about the difference between a biography and a memoir?
Yeah, I mean, once again, if somebody's famous and I know that famous person or I've studied that famous person, I'm thinking about somebody from the royal family in the UK or a famous musician. I can write a biography about them by interviewing people that are close to them, kind of getting the inside scoop.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're not going to have the specifics, the he said, she said, the
Mm-hmm.
feelings. You can
The
interpret
I
and
felt like this, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's a step removed. So I don't read a lot of biography. Um, now
I
if you're gonna
prefer memoirs to biographies because biographies, it depends on if it's somebody that like. I love John Denver, and I read John Denver's biography, and it was excellent. I feel like his
Mhm.
songs are often his memoirs because they're
Ah,
so
yeah,
personal.
yeah.
But it just, as far as for writing personally, I I deal mostly I love legacy writing, and I wouldn't mind doing a memoir. There's some things that are in our lives that I think we could pick out, don't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. But right now we're focusing on the legacy writing. So
Mhm.
and I also love journaling in terms of like, okay, like Michelle right now is putting together some journals that will be for sale in Amazon. And
Mhm.
they're like kind of like
Composition books.
either composition books. Then they have, place where you fill in about your day. What is your
Oh,
weight? What are you eating? How do you feel? Kind of a keeping track of your life over a span of like 3 months. And
mhm.
kind of goal journals. If you have a goal for
Right.
a health, for your health, it would be a
Right.
great way to be able to do that. Now, I've tried in the past having kind of a calendar based journal, something where I keep track of like a daily log of things that I need to do, things that I want to accomplish. And those are fun, but I don't keep them. I mean, I'll do those sporadically.
Yeah, they're not something you commit to like you would one of the
No.
other types.
Mhm.
I think the only other one that you and I talked about a couple weeks ago that we haven't talked about is the diary. And I think you mentioned it in one of our earlier sessions, but
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think we both talk about the fact that personally I feel diaries are set to fail because they're dated. If you get behind, you're overwhelmed. I'm not a fan. I
Mhm.
will do a diary as long as it's free form and undated and but I do like now that I've really been talking about this to remember when I put something down in writing, put the year, the date, and where was I? You know,
Mhm.
for me, I've lived in 5 different states and the experiences in my life really differ based on where I
Mhm.
lived, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
So
they
I
do.
think
They
it's
do.
good to know that.
Mhm. The other thing that we haven't talked about yet, and you touched a little bit on it last week, was a relationship journal.
Mm,
And there is a podcast that I've listened to. And what they do is they have a topic and they have saved their marriage by discussing that topic and writing about that topic. And then on air, on a podcast. And then they have actually put together journals with those topics for people to go through with their significant other. And
wow, that sounds
yeah,
amazing.
and it's a journal that you do with another person, whether it be a parent and a child, a husband and a wife, partners, um, like you might do at a marriage retreat
Hmm.
or during like pre-marriage counseling. Sometimes
Hmm.
people will do them during that kind of time. I
Hmm.
think those are really fascinating too, where two people sit down and write about the same topic or write back and forth to one another about something. um,
Well, the relationship journal that my husband and I have, I actually gifted the journal to him on his birthday the year before we were married. And
mhm,
what we decided was, sometimes we've talked about this when you start writing, things just start coming. And often when you're just saying words, that doesn't happen.
right.
And so we actually decided that, like, sometimes for special occasions, Christmas, instead of going out and buying the fancy Christmas card, we'll write to each other in the journal. And usually one of us will write and then we'll hand it to the other one and then they'll write. And, we've had this for 36 years and we probably only have 50 posts in it. But that's
But
okay because
that's
we dated and we don't do the same. You could do like always do Christmas or always do your anniversary or something like that if you chose to. But this one is just random. My husband has been ill and he can't get out to buy a card. So he's been writing in the journal instead, and it's really kind of
mm,
cool. You get his heartfelt feelings. But it's a little too
beautiful.
personal to have others read, but it certainly does have meaning to us.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Almost like finding old love letters.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
pretty
I
warm
love
stuff.
it. That
Yeah,
is beautiful. And that's what I'm getting at. What we're talking about, I guess there are a couple of different purposes for these kinds of writings. One is for yourself,
right.
and one is to build the connection with other people.
Correct.
And the diary, the junk journal or the artist journal, the
Mm-hmm.
the morning pages are more of a self connection,
Mm-hmm.
where the other kinds of journals that we're talking about are really building a deeper connection between you and someone else. Sometimes that someone else is known, sometimes that someone else is somewhere down the road.
Exactly, or just someone else in the world that has interest in you in a positive way, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sadness of most people from birth to death take very few opportunities to put their feelings down on paper.
Mm.
I'll say to someone, "Well, how do you feel about that?" "Well, I don't know how I feel." And it's like, I know people have feelings and they aren't how do I want to say it? They're so private that they're afraid to let those feelings out. And I think it's a
I think they're
shame.
afraid to be judged. They don't
Yeah.
want to have controversy. I felt that way in the past. I felt that way a lot. I
Hmm.
mean, it's like, okay, I can be flexible. I don't have to take a stand one way or the other. You get to decide and we'll run with that. I don't have an investment in it in one way or the other. I don't feel the need to choose. But by not choosing, you
You
know,
kind of lose your voice.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
happened to me
so,
in the past. The other thing that I think is really important here, Judy, is that there is a particular feeling of worth that comes from expressing yourself, from seeing someone and being seen,
mhm,
from
I
knowing
agree.
someone else and being known, from
Hmm.
valuing somebody else and being valued. And I think that's what we're doing with these
Mm,
legacy writings, is that we're putting out the opportunity for somebody else to get joy and understanding and lessons from our lives, but we're really being seen. We're really opening
mhm.
ourselves up to others in a way that is really deep.
I agree. And, it doesn't mean you have to expose things you don't feel comfortable exposing, but there are many, 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 many things about each of us that are okay to
Mhm.
expose. And even if they're a little bit deeper than normal, that's okay,
Well, and I think like one of my latest writings when I wrote the one called My Broken Vajayjay, um, I Aubrey had told me that she's 13 right now, and she had told me that she knows that some people follow me, and so I let her read it before I published it to let her know that I did not get into any graphic details.
Hmm.
Um, so and I got her, okay, it wasn't as bad as she had feared. Um,
Good. Yeah.
mhm. I
Yeah.
mean, the title was a bit, of a hook. So if you know what a VJJ is, which you'll have to look it up if you don't. Um, yeah.
Look it up if you don't, or just read it.
Yeah. So anyway, sometimes you can use some euphemisms to get into
Hmm.
some or comparisons, some to talk about the things that maybe you're feeling a little like you want to share, but you don't know how to.
Exactly, exactly. I thought what was funny about that writing that you did with the title you've just discussed is that one of our male cousins actually commented on that writing and said, Lisa, I had the same exact thing happen to me. Different parts, of course, but I thought that was hysterical. Who
I
knew,
think it's an experience that many people can relate to. So not necessarily to the extent that happened to me, but
But bike riders often have this issue, and a lot of women ride boys' bikes, and that can make it even more interesting. Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
So,
I think
what it
this is
boils down to is, that whatever kind of writing, like I said, really the goal here, and I think that's what we're pushing people to do is pick something, play around with it, write, get your ideas down on paper, be a contributor, be a
Mhm.
somebody who is creating. Don't just read. I mean, that's great and fine and wonderful. And listen to stuff and listen to podcasts and listen to story. Create story.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
there's a real profound sense of value and contribution
I
when
agree.
you put
There's
it out
one
there.
last thing I want to say about that. Facebook. Okay, people read Facebook, and there are people that read Facebook and comment on Facebook, and then there are people that just, I call them stalkers. They just
Yeah,
read stuff, but they never comment. And I think a great way to practice getting your feelings on a written um, medium is if you see something in Facebook and it's somebody you know, and they ask you for comments, comment. I mean, it's fun for the writer to read those comments as much as it is for the reader to write those comments.
mhm. Now, I want to go a little step further though. If you disagree or you don't like it, don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep it to yourself. Yeah,
Mhm,
we don't need that kind of thing. But I think
mhm.
all writers, whether they be on Facebook or whatever, love support and they
Yeah.
love contributions. So,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
be afraid to say, even if it's just a sentence or a few words to contribute.
I
I think.
agree and have been there too,
Hmm.
Wow, I never thought of it this way.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I
Exactly.
think you're specifically talking about the Sidetrack Sisters
Mhm.
Facebook page, because yeah, we put it out there and we get a few comments, but not a lot. And we would definitely like more input, more conversation, more knowing, we hear lots of people, we'll be at the grocery store or at an event, and somebody will come up to us and say, "Hey, I read your stuff and I love your writing." And it's like, I didn't know you read
I've
our
never
stuff.
seen your comments. I didn't know you read our stuff, you know.
Yeah,
Hey, talk to us.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would make us feel really good. So,
Uh-huh,
because that's what we're
exactly.
doing this for. We're doing it. We want to know that we're encouraging people. We want to know that we're touching people. We want to know that we are making a connection with people,
We want a community.
of
We
all
want
the
our
people.
and we want our community to join us, and you
Mm.
know, if somebody wants to put out a post, hey, let's do it. You know, that's it's not just a selfish thing. It's to me, it's an all inclusive.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, Judy. Next week we're talking about your truth. That's going to
Ooh,
be a fun one. I'm really looking forward to it.
I am
Um,
too. Yeah, I get accused of poetic license a lot, so I
you
think that'll be
do.
a good.
This is
Uh-huh.
going to be a
Yeah.
great one. Okay. Love you,
Okay.
Judy. We'll talk to you
Love you
next week.
too.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Bye bye. Have a
Yep.
great
Bye-bye.
day.
You too.